Power Green is here. Good morning, AFSCME. How y'all doing? It is an honor to be here with you today, and I'm glad you had a chance to hear from our president. Anyone here from Maryland? Oh, there we go. All right. I couldn't help but do that. Glenn Milton, oh my goodness, Donna Edwards over there. Been in a few foxholes with these Maryland folk, and I'll get in a foxhole with them and any of you any day of the week, because you all had my back, and I hope you know I've had your back, and we'll continue to have your back. You know, you have a remarkable leader. I see Lee Saunders so often in Washington, and I want to make sure you know something right away, which is that he is there fighting for you, fighting for working families, fighting for the middle class every single day of the week. Lee, thank you for your friendship. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for everything you're doing, not only for your members, but for America and for the middle class and for working people across this country. I tell you, it is really inspiring to look around this room, you know? I mean, we were chatting in the back, but you get out here and you see everybody here, and it really does inspire me, and it really makes me think of my roots. You know, I grew up in Buffalo, New York. Anyone from Buffalo here? There we go. We got a few New Yorkers there. You know, I still got the Buffalo News on my screensaver at home. I'm still a masochist. I'm a Buffalo Bills fan still. And so I want you to know that. And, you know, the thing about Buffalo, I love Buffalo because Buffalo is a union town. Buffalo is a working class town. Buffalo is the city of good neighbors. It's a city where we take care of each other, where we look after each other. You know, I just celebrated, and celebrate is really the wrong word. We just commemorated, my 4 siblings and I, the 40th anniversary of when my father passed away. I was 12 years old at the time, and that was a tough summer. But I had a surrogate father who took care of me. He was a union member, and he taught me what it meant to be a union member. He taught me about how when times are tough, we close ranks. He taught me about what community means, and that's what you all mean. And that's why I love AFSCME, and that's why I have always been a fan of the union movement, because you are about the notion that we're all in this together. That, you know what? You know, if you try to blow out your neighbor's candle, it doesn't make your candle shine any brighter. We got a lot of people here in America who are trying to blow out other people's candles because they think it'll shine their candle brighter. That's not who we are as a nation. That's not who we are as a union movement. And that's never who you have been. And so I take those values with me to work every single day. And I want to say thank you to all of you. I have had the privilege of serving in local government. I've had the privilege of serving in state government, and I have the privilege of serving as your labor secretary. And that time in local government and that time in state government, I was working side by side with AFSCME members, learning from you, seeing the great work that you do. I am a firm believer in public service. I am a firm believer in everything that you have done. And we are working for you to make sure that we can continue to build that middle class. You know, I think it's really important for us as we sit here in 2014 to take stock of where we were in 2008, where we've come, and where we need to go. You know, every first Friday of the month, we have Numbers Day at the Department of Labor. We learn about the job numbers from the preceding month, and we learn about where the economy is going. And in the 2 months before President Obama took office, December of 2008, January of 2009, this nation shed 1.5 million jobs during those 2 months. You know it because you lived it. You have friends and colleagues who suffered. Government jobs fell, and in fact, even in this recovery, we still are down 600,000 government jobs. So you felt it, your friends have felt it. And where have we come now? We had a Numbers Day recently, the 52nd consecutive month of private sector job growth. We now have seen 9.7 million private sector jobs created under the leadership of President Obama. 9.7 million. This first 6 months of 2014 has been the best 6 months of job growth since 1999. The 52 months in a row are the longest streak of job growth on record, and we've been keeping records since 1940. You look at enrollment, people now, for the first time in so many circumstances, have access to health insurance. 8 million people enrolled in the Affordable Care Act, another 3 million people with their parents, another 4.8 million people enrolled in Medicaid. And you know what? Another 5.7 million people who would be enrolled in Medicaid, but for the fact that 24 states have declined to expand Medicaid. So Texas remains the uninsurance capital of the United States. Florida is fighting that battle, a close second to Texas as the health uninsurance capital of the United States. But we continue to make progress. The rate of growth of healthcare costs is the lowest it's been in decades. There's a lot of reason to feel that the economy is moving in the right direction. And I speak to businesses day in and day out who want to grow their business, who want to move and hire even more. Insourcing is becoming the word of the day as opposed to outsourcing. You remember that Jeep plant in Ohio that Mitt Romney said was going to move to China? Remember that, 2012? Well, guess what happened? They've just added 1,000 workers. The only thing moving overseas are the cars that they're manufacturing here at home. So that's where we were, that's where we've come. You made so many sacrifices during this period of time, and we are well aware of that. And we are well aware of the fact that we have many storm clouds that persist. Too many people still don't have a job, or too many people are working 2 or 3 jobs just to make ends meet. Too many people are working a full-time job and living in poverty. And nobody in this country who works a full-time job should ever have to live in poverty. But that's the reality for too many people. Too many long-term unemployed are still looking for work but haven't been successful. And I speak to them every day. I am inspired by their stick-to-itiveness. They tell me, Tom, I got no quit in me. And we're not going to quit on them because you never quit on them. We never quit on you. We're not a nation of quitters. We're the nation of helpers. And that's what we're going to do with the long-term unemployed. Too many people have pension insecurity as a result of what's happened. Too many people in places like Detroit have worked their tails off, toiling for their cities, only to face pension insecurity in retirement. Too many people feel like, you know what? The next generation may not be as well off as our generation. And we have to be honest. There are forces out there that want to drive you into the ground. We're not going to let that happen because you know what? I refuse to make 2014 a new gilded age in America. That's not who we are as a people. We are a people that grows the economy from the middle out, not the top down. And that's what the president's doing, growing the economy from the middle out, expanding opportunity for everybody. That's what the president will continue to fight for. And how can we make sure that we continue this progress and we address these storm clouds? How do we do that? Well, I will tell you, there are a few things I've learned in this job, and there are a few things I've learned growing up in Buffalo, New York. And I'll tell you, job number one, to continue to grow the economy, to continue to make sure that the middle class is vibrant for everyone, starts with making sure we continue to have a dynamic and empowered labor movement. We must continue to do that. You continue to grow your ranks. Your 50,000 stronger campaign, Lee, became 92,000 and change stronger. That's a tribute to you. That's a tribute to you. That's a tribute to all of you. Whether you're Maryland, whether you're Washington State, whether you're New York, You should be proud of that, because we don't get mad, we organize. That's what I learned as a kid. And you're doing that right now. You know, we're really having a conversation in America about the middle class. What does it mean to be in the middle class? How do we sustain and grow the middle class? And I think we can learn a lot from history as we figure out how to move forward, because the direct relationship between the health of the middle class and the health of the labor movement is not speculation. It is a historical fact. You look at when union density was high, you saw wages were good. You saw that you had middle class prosperity across America. When the highest proportion of workers chose union representation, wages rose. Strong unions reduce inequality and build the middle class. There have been many stories recently about the fact that countries like Canada have overtaken the United States in terms of the strength of the middle class. Well, it's not a coincidence that in Canada, union density is over twice what it is here in the United States. We need to do something about that. You're doing something about that every day. We're doing something about that at the White House and at the Department of Labor. And it starts with making sure we continue to protect the right of collective bargaining across this country. Let's face it, you know, Harris v. Quinn was a good day for free riders. But you know what? There ain't no decision from the Supreme Court that can keep this group down. Because I know this gentleman here, I know my friends in Maryland, I know my friends at AFSCME across America, and we're not going to allow one decision to dictate our future and to keep us from moving forward to raise wages. Because in the home health context, you have done so much to raise wages, and we're going to continue that partnership with you. I am so proud of the fact that we issued a regulation last year to give a raise to the 2 million home health workers across America who are entitled to minimum wage and overtime protections. And I want to thank Lee and everybody else here at AFSCME. And so we're going to continue to work. And I want to say thank you to all of you who, not just the people who work in Wisconsin, but the people who came to Wisconsin to defend the right to organize, to defend the right for collective bargaining. Whether you came to Wisconsin, whether you came to America, you know, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. That's why you came forward, because this is about the middle class. This is about the fact that we will not allow another Gilded Age in America. This is about the fact that economies don't grow from the top down, they grow from the middle out, and we need to continue to support you. So, job number one, as we move forward, is to make sure we strengthen and grow the labor movement. And you should know that you have a friend in President Obama, you have friends in the Department of Labor, and we're going to continue to work on that behalf. Now, it's not just strengthening and growing the labor movement. We need to continue our work in so many other areas. And it starts with finding every opportunity to lift up wages, because we know that since 1979, wages have grown only about 2%, while productivity has increased over 90%. When somebody works hard, they should be rewarded for that work with a fair wage that allows them to have a roof over their head, retirement security, healthcare security, a little bit of a nest egg for their families. And that is why we have to look to every single opportunity we can to lift up wages. And it starts with your continuing support for our efforts across America to raise the minimum wage. We need to pass Harkin-Miller. 10-10 should be the law of the land. Because as I said, nobody who works a full-time job should have to live in poverty. And I meet so many people who are working hard and falling behind. So many women who are working hard and falling behind. So many people who tell me, Tom, I have to make choices between whether I pay the rent or whether I buy the food or whether I buy the medicine. Those choices should never have to be made in the United States of America in the year 2014. We are too good of a nation to have to make those choices. And I'll tell you, we may have gridlock on this issue in Washington, but we are going across the nation. The President and I and others have been helping governors and local governments across this nation who are taking matters into their own hands. Since the President put his foot on the accelerator of the minimum wage increase, 14 states have raised the minimum wage. So many local governments, most recently San Diego, raised their minimum wage. This brush fire has turned into a prairie fire, and it's now an out-and-out wildfire of fairness for people across this country. And you have always been at the forefront of this movement, and we need your help. Because right now, the minimum wage is worth 20% less than it was 30 years ago. Imagine having to take a pay cut. Hey, Tom, I'm going to hire you for a job, but you got to take 20% less than you were making 30 years ago. That's not fair. That is inconsistent with our values as a nation. And we will continue to fight. And we will also continue to use every regulatory tool in our arsenal to increase wages, to make wages fair, to make sure we reward work, just as we did when we were able to help 2 million home health workers across America. And I want to say thank you, because you do God's work. Everyone in this building does God's work. And you should be rewarded with the work that you do by receiving a fair wage. That's what the home health reg is about. It's about fairness. It's about the dignity of work. It's about telling you that you are professionals and you should be treated as professionals. That's what you are in the home health world. That's what you are in the corrections world. That's what you are in all the work you do in state and local governments. And that is why you should always be treated with dignity. And when you pay a fair wage, when you get health care, you get treated with dignity. That's what we're about in this country. You know, I love you guys. I just want you to know that. Y'all are good people. This is about, I love you more, okay? You know, it's not just the minimum wage. We are in the middle of doing a regulation right now that relates to overtime. Because, you know what? Overtime stands for the proposition that if you work extra, you should be paid extra. When I was a kid and someone told me that, you know, their dad or their mama was a manager, what that meant to me was they were in the middle class. Well, you know what? There's a lot of managers today who work 70-hour weeks and get paid $24,000. That's a poverty wage. If you have a family of 4, you're living in poverty as a manager. And so guess what? The president, as part of his opportunity agenda, directed the Department of Labor to fix that regulation, to improve it, and we're going to do just that. And in addition, I'll tell you one thing that is so important, and you have been so helpful. Part of making sure we expand opportunity is to ensure that we enforce those laws on the books that ensure that people who work a full day's work get paid the full day's wage. And I want to thank anyone here from Puerto Rico. Where's your members from Puerto Rico? Because Servidores Públicos Unidos, Local 3500, we had one of our largest cases was in Puerto Rico. We recovered $35 million in back wages for nearly 5,000 corrections officers, which was one of the largest settlements in our history. And where's the Puerto Rico? Si se puede. Hicimos eso. And I will tell you, you know what? In addition to doing the great work that you are private attorneys general. You are our eyes and ears out in the field, because I can tell you, we would not have been able to bring this case to light and to reach the resolution that we reached. $35 million in back wages for hard-working corrections workers if we had not had your help, if you had not been our eyes and ears. We need everybody in this room to be the eyes and ears, because regrettably, we have seen wage theft in pockets across this country, and we need to make sure that anybody who is cheating is held to account. And we need your help in doing that. You know, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in a minute, but elections do have consequences. And one consequence is that laws are only as good as the will of the people enforcing them. And the work that we have done in enforcing the Fair Labor Standards Act, in enforcing Workplace Safety Act, the unprecedented work that Hilda Solis before me and the dedicated men and women in our wage and hour division continue to do, is an outcome that protects you, that helps build the middle class, that helps make sure we have safe workplaces. Remember that. One consequence of elections is who is in charge of enforcement. That's a big deal. So what else can we do to make sure we address these storm clouds? Because we got a lot of work to do. And I'll tell you, one thing we're doing at the Department of Labor is making sure that everybody has the skills to compete. Because, you know, when my surrogate father lost his job in the late 70s, when the economy started to crumble in upstate New York, the challenge that he encountered was that he had a 10th grade education. And the new manufacturing jobs of tomorrow and today, he wasn't equipped with the skills to compete. That's why we're investing so much in skills, so that we can make sure that everybody has that opportunity to compete. It's a very critical element. We need your help. Your investment in the skills and training of your membership, Lee, is a critical element to your success as a labor movement, and a critical element to our success in growing and sustaining the middle class. So let's keep doing that together. And let's make sure that we never give up on our efforts to pass comprehensive immigration reform. Because if we want to grow the middle class, we need to pass comprehensive immigration reform. We can't take no for an answer. Too many people are suffering in silence. Too many people are living in the underground economy. Too many people are exploited. Too many people are dying. We need your help, because change doesn't come or initiate in Washington. Change comes to Washington. I was working for Senator Kennedy back in 1995 and 96 when the last iteration of immigration reform passed. It was bipartisan. It's always been bipartisan. It was Alan Simpson before that. It was Ronald Reagan. It was Democrats, Republicans, independents, faith leaders, union members. And that's what it's been. And that's what it was in the Senate last year. This is a national security imperative. It's an economic imperative. It is a moral imperative. And I hope that you will continue your help and leadership. And I want to thank you for your help to date. Because nothing worth fighting for has ever been easy. You all know that. This is not easy, but we will succeed. And we need your help. And I ask you one more thing too. We can never forget about people who are living in the shadows. You know, my mama and daddy taught me that if you want to get to heaven, you better have letters of references from people who have suffered and you have helped. And that's what I try to do. That's why I work with the long-term unemployed. That's why I try to work with people who are trying to get their status adjusted so that they can go away from the underground economy to the mainstream economy. That is the work we need to do. We need to pass the extension of emergency unemployment compensation for people who are long-term unemployed so that we can help prevent the dire circumstances they're in from becoming an out-and-out catastrophe. Again, another piece of legislation that used to be bipartisan and that can be bipartisan if your voice is heard. And finally, I want to tell you, and I know you know this, but I think one of the most important things that you can do as we seek to strengthen and grow the middle class is to make sure that your voices are heard. Because I will tell you, as I said before, elections have consequences. I am hard-pressed to think of a time in my life where the differences in values between people who seek to run this nation are greater. You know how Harris versus Quinn came about. There are forces out there that want to bring your union down and bring the union movement down. Forces that believe that the problems in America are the problems that were created by unions. Well, they're not reading the data. You know, we collect data on unions and wages, and the 2013 data showed that the median wage for a union member was $200 greater than for a non-union member. Do you think home health workers are better off now with AFSCME and with SEIU and being organized than they were before then? I got a one-word answer and I got a two-word answer to that question. The one-word answer is yes. The two-word answer is hell yes. I firmly believe that when women succeed, America succeeds. I firmly believe that when unions succeed, America succeeds. I firmly believe that when unions succeed, the middle class succeeds and grows. And we need to think about these values. And we need to think about this as we come up upon elections, because elections do have consequences, and elections are about choice. And you know what? There are some forces out there that are hoping that you read that Harris versus Quinn decision and you read about other things going on and you say, I give up. That's what they're hoping you do. Well, I'm here to say, you got way too much fight in you left. You got a leader who's a fighter. You've got member leaders around this country who are fighters. We got work to do across this country. We've got a middle class to build and rebuild. We've got an America that needs your help. We've got an America that has its best days ahead of it. We have an America where everybody who works hard can join the middle class. We have an America where it doesn't matter who you love. It doesn't matter what language you speak. It doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter your zip code. You can succeed in America. It is about freedom. It is about opportunity. It is about growing that middle class. So if you're inclined to sit out in November, I know you won't, because we need your help. I leave you with this. Yesterday, I had the privilege of being at Howard University, one of my favorite universities in the United States. What were we doing there? We were celebrating, and I was with Eric Holder and others, celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And you know what? You are well aware of the important role that the labor movement played in the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Before I walked in this room, my friend Paul Booth gave me a button that I have on right here. And I'm going to read it to you. It's from the AFSCME local in Memphis. And it says, I am a man, okay? And you know what? You know what? I'm going to take a liberty, okay? It says, I am a person, okay? Because I am a man and I am a woman. And the labor movement and the civil rights movement historically have been one and the same. The March on Washington was a march for civil rights. It was a march for labor rights. It was the labor movement who bailed out Martin Luther King when he was incarcerated in the Birmingham jail. It was the labor movement, people like Bayard Rustin and others, who brought us the March on Washington. And you know what? We celebrated that Civil Rights Act of 1964 yesterday. And one of the lessons you know is that, you know what? That was hard. People died in the service of the passage of that law. We have had times in our nation's history where we've had struggles. But you know what? And there have been times when we have fallen down. But you know the song of the movement. We fall down and we get up. And we are falling down from time to time, but this movement, whether it's the labor movement or the civil rights movement, we are getting up and we are sprinting far ahead. We are building a better America in Wisconsin, in Ohio, across North, across South, across East, across West, with President Obama at the helm, with Lee Saunders here, with my friends in Maryland, with my friends in New York, across America. We need your help. Our values are at stake. Make your voice heard. That's the most important thing we can do to grow the middle class, is to make your voices heard loudly and clearly. We will not have another Gilded Age in America. America succeeds when unions succeed. I am so happy and honored to be here. Let's go forward. Sí se puede. Sí se puede. Sí se puede. Muchísimas gracias. Thank you, Lee.